Welcome in, everyone. I hope you guys are doing great wherever you're watching from today. We have a big topic. B-52 bombers, along with stealth fighter jets, conducted a major show of force operation against China to send a message to China that their recent activity against our allies in Asia and in the Pacific will not be tolerated. And the photos, this whole situation's crazy. We got B-52s flying down to Venezuela. We got them flying over Europe. And now we are buzzing right up next to China to let them know, hey, we're not taking any more of your shit. We are here. We are going to stay. You are not going to push around the United States military and our biggest allies in the region. Before we get into it, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Huge, huge, huge boost to the channel. Comment with your thoughts below. Should the United States be nervous about China? Do you support the mission to fly bombers right up to China, fly stealth fighters right up to China? Let me know in the comments below. Please hit the notification bell. All notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, X, D Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. My DMs are wide open. Send me any tips you got. Now, let's get into it. China is our biggest issue in terms of rivals in the world. Why do I say that? China is an economic powerhouse. They have a growing military, and U.S. military assessments say that by 2027 or 2032, that China is going to attempt to invade Taiwan. They are building massive landing ships. They are building their navy to the biggest degrees we have ever seen. They are expanding their air capabilities, and they are conducting more and more provocative actions, specifically against Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan. Japan recently, their prime minister, I believe her last name is pronounced Takachia, said that they would come to Taiwan's aid with other countries to fight China if China were to invade Taiwan. So that's kind of setting the stage. So what does China do? They go in, they breach South Korean's air defense zone. They then lock on fire radar to a Japanese fighter jet. I believe actually it might have been multiple Japanese fighter jets. And now the U.S. has responded. I'm going to put this up on the screen for you. We got some photos here. It says 2 U.S. Air Force B-52H Fortress, long-range nuclear-capable strategic bombers with the Red Devils of the 96 Bomb Squadron, 2nd Bomb Wing out of Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana, participated in a show of force yesterday over the Sea of Japan alongside an F-15 DJ with the Japanese Air Self-Defense Force and an F-15J with the 306th Tactical Fighter Squadron, both from the 6th Air Wing Station at Kamatuzu Air Base. Probably I butchered that. If I did, let me know in the comments below. And a number of additional F-35s and F-15s with the Japanese Defense Forces. The flight follows several aggressive actions against Japan and South Korea by both China and Russia over the last week. I forgot to mention, when they flew into the South Korean defense zone, they flew multiple Chinese bombers and they flew multiple Russian bombers. It was a joint flight between China and Russia, flying bombers of each nation. Over the last week, beginning with threats against the life of Japan's prime minister for comments made about Taiwan, and coming to a head as fighter jets with the People's Liberation Army Navy locked their fire control radars onto Japanese F-15Js off the coast of Okinawa this past weekend, and a long-range strategic bomber of the Russian Russian and PLA's Air Force conducted a rare joint patrol over the Sea of Japan, violating South Korea's air defense identification zone. So they send their planes, China sends their planes, Russia sends their planes, and then what does the United States do? We send our B-52 bombers, right into their backyard, essentially. Now, the water line doesn't touch China. It's separated by, I think, about an 11-mile strip of land, but the water does touch Russia. So this is also a clear message to the Russians as well. They are buzzing Russia and China with B-52 bombers. Very important to note, it is a huge, huge move by the United States. So right here, I'm going to put this. This comes from Reuters. Just a few more details. It says U.S. nuclear-capable bombers flew over the Sea of Japan alongside Japanese fighter jets on Wednesday. And then if we scroll down here, Says the display follows a joint flight of Chinese and Russian strategic bombers in the East China Sea and Western Pacific on Tuesday, and separate Chinese aircraft drills that prompted Japan to scramble jets that Tokyo said were targeted by radar beams. Says right here, says both Japan and South Korea host U.S. forces, with Japan home to the biggest concentration of American military power overseas, including an aircraft carrier strike group and a U.S. Marine Expeditionary Force. Japan's Chief of Staff, Joint Staff General Hiroko Uchikura said the Chinese and Japanese joint bomber flight was clearly a show of force directed at Japan. We consider it a grave concern from the standpoint of Japan's security. And it says Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi also said Japan's concerns about the Chinese and Russian aircraft with the NATO chief Mark Rutte in a telephone call on Wednesday. Right here, it says South Korea's military also scrambled fighter jets when the Chinese and Russian aircraft entered its air defense identification zone on Tuesday, an area that extends beyond its airspace and is used for early warning. Chinese military ships and aircraft operate almost daily around Taiwan in what Taipei says is part of Beijing's ongoing pressure campaign. On Thursday, Taiwan's defense ministry reported a stepped-up Chinese military presence for a second day in a row. It said it detected 27 aircraft, including nuclear-capable H-6K bombers, conducting a joint combat readiness patrol along with warships around the island. Furthermore, it says late on Wednesday, the ministry said Chinese J-16 fighters and H-6 bombers had again carried out a long-range training in the Western Pacific after passing to the south of Taiwan. Regional tensions have risen since Japan Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi triggered a dispute with Beijing last month with the remarks on how Tokyo might react to a hypothetical Chinese attack on Taiwan. So in terms of the B-52, if you're watching this, you probably know what a B-52 is, but it is a long-range bomber. You can see some photos here. That's a more modern one. These are different models. These are the old ones. That's the bomber bay. Look at the engine. That's one dropping its bombs on Vietnam. And then that is a more modern one. And then let's look. They have one here where all the bombs are laid out right there. So that's a B-52 with its full payload of different bombs and ordnances it can carry. It is an incredibly powerful weapon. It is an incredibly powerful bomber that can unleash hell on the enemy. And then in terms of China's bomber that they flew, we know it was this one, which was first introduced in 1969. Looks like this. It's actually kind of a good-looking plane. I'm not going to lie. It's a good-looking bomber. And then those operators with former, there you go. So that's the Chinese bomber. I'll pull this off the screen now. So what is going on here? I'm going to break this down for you. Is China and Russia are trying to flex their muscles on the United States of America. And the United States of America is saying, no, you're not going to be allowed to do that. We're not going to let you do that. We are going to push back on you, and we are going to remind you which military is the strongest in the world. And for anyone who might have forgotten, our military, the United States military, is the strongest on the planet. We have the ability to project power everywhere in the world. We can go wherever we want in the world and project power. China is a regional power. Is China a threat? Yes, absolutely. A war with China will be unlike anything the world has seen since World War II. Unlike what's going on in Europe and what's going on in the Middle East, that doesn't really have an impact on the day-to-day lives of Americans. And I've said this before, I'm going to keep saying it. A war with China is going to have a direct impact on your life. Our supply chains are intermingled, our economies are intermingled, and we should decouple from China as quickly and as fast as we possibly can to make sure that this situation and that the Chinese cannot have more influence and control over things that impact our lives. So China and Russia are trying to flex their muscles, flying into South Korea's air defense zone, locking on to Japanese fighter jets. So the United States of America is saying, no, no, no. We are going to remind you. We are going to remind you who's in control. And we're going to remind the Chinese, we're the ones who run this show, not them. It is our essentially world, if you will. We can project power where we want to go. And you can't let the Chinese and the Russians terrify our allies, lock onto their fighter jets, buzz them with bombers, buzz their coast with bombers, and do nothing about it. That's how you embolden them to continue this behavior. If you want to stop this behavior, what you do is you reestablish deterrence. So what did we do? We called up the Japanese, said, hey, fuel up your fighter jets. We got B-52 bombers on the way. They want to come buzz your coast. We're going to go buzz their coast. And unlike them, our bombers can carry a hell of a lot more firepower. And we got a lot more of them. We got a lot more air power than China or Russia does. So why should we tolerate their BS? We shouldn't. We absolutely should not. We got to set the standard. And the standard is we're the United States of America. We set the standard. We set the rules. We set the tone. And if you want to test us, we're going to push back on you. That's how you remain the world's lone main superpower. By letting these countries think they can do whatever they want and encroach on us and our allies, they start to believe that they can. And we can't allow that to happen. What we have to do is send the message. You want to mess with us? We'll mess with you right back. And you're not going to like how we do it. We're going to bring a lot of firepower to the show, and we're going to bring more technology than you can dream of to the show with F-35 stealth fighters. China's air power and air technology is still probably 20 years behind ours. Russia, 30 to 40 years behind ours. Russia is still flying bombers that are hardly updated from the 1960s. We've got the B-2 stealth bomber. That is essentially a 40-year-old plane. Still can defeat any radar system in the world. We got the B-21 Raider, the new one. That is something the Chinese and the Russians couldn't dream of having. So I would encourage the Chinese and the Russians to think long and hard about what they're doing. You don't want any part of this. You don't want any part of the United States. But that is where we have it as of Thursday, December 11th. We'll see it. We'll see how Russia and China responds. We'll see what they do. But I want to know what you guys think. Please let me know in the comments below. What do you think of this situation? What comes next? Let me know in the comments below. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Cost you guys nothing. Huge, huge, huge boost to the channel. Hit the notification bell. All notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, X D Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. My DMs are wide open. Send me any tips you got. And you can find the link to join our members-only exclusive tiers in the video description and in the pinned comment below. As always, thanks for watching. You guys are the best audience on YouTube. I'll see you all next time.